There are 3 objectives for today's webinar. Participants will learn new strategies that help families in rapid rehousing become self-supporting. Be prepared to bring these strategies back to your county or community, and get connected to others in the field for peer learning. I'll explain more about the peer learning opportunities in a minute. The presenters you'll hear from today will share their insights from working in the field, helping families increase their income. Vashawn Basnight is a Reemployment Specialist with the Employment Security Department based at WorkSource Everett in Snohomish County. Sarai Orth is the Eastern Washington Branch Manager with Career Path Services in Spokane. And Byron Cregeur is the Executive Director of Shared Housing Services based in Tacoma, Washington. A few logistical details before we begin. The webinar will last 90 minutes. We will save about 15 minutes at the end for questions. You can pose a question at any time during the webinar by submitting a question using the question function in the GoToWebinar toolbar. And so we would recommend you just type your question through that function rather than raising your hand. Attendees are muted because of the high turnout. And there is a very short evaluation survey that will be sent out via email after the webinar. Please do fill that out as we value your feedback. Before introducing our first presenter, here is some brief background and context to today's training. The Ending Family Homelessness program, which began in 2013 and went statewide in 2014, brought together partners from different systems to meet the needs of homeless families on TANF. Housing providers, DSHS, workforce providers, and others, like school liaisons, are partnering in efforts to provide rapid rehousing services to families. These cross-system collaborations are a best practice and benefit systems and people experiencing homelessness, whether they're on TANF or otherwise. We know that increasing income is critical to families to succeed in rapid rehousing. To use TANF as an example, although this would apply to other families with no or limited income, we can see that housing costs and TANF benefits are not really compatible in the long term. For example, a 3-person family on TANF in Washington State receives $478 a month, and there is a 5-year lifetime time limit to receiving those funds. A household's desire to increase their income and strong community partnerships are both key to making rapid rehousing work. The 2 strategies we'll be looking at today as ways to increase income are employment services and shared housing. Our goal is for you to leave with new strategies and energy around ways families can get employed and increase household income to sustain their housing. Our third objective of today was to connect like-minded communities in order to leverage experience and expertise across the state. So we'll be looking to draw connections between communities and agencies based on the questions and comments submitted through the webinar. And there's also a place on the evaluation survey sent out after the webinar for you to indicate if you are interested in joining a peer learning opportunity around this topic, or if you are already involved in one. We encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. The first segment is on employment services. we'll hear from two presenters about ways to pair short-term employment strategies with rapid rehousing. And with that, I will turn it over to our first presenter, Vashawn.
Good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this webinar and to discuss our strategies here at WorkSource Snohomish County with providing employment services to individuals who are homeless and looking for reemployment. And so here you have my contact information. Should you have any questions afterwards or would like to connect with me, you're more than welcome to do that. Email is always the best way, and that is bbasnight@esd.wa.gov. And so to start off with, I'd just like to discuss the general services that we do offer at WorkSource to all individuals, but of course to people that are homeless as well. And so one of the main things that we do is we really do provide labor market information, and we maintain our own website as well that we do house labor market information pertaining specifically to Washington State. And what we have found here is that by providing up-to-date and reliable labor market information to individuals that we serve, it allows us to better, one, understand the employer needs from their workforce, and it allows us to properly place people into training programs where they can find suitable work that will allow them to be self-sufficient. And one of the tools that we utilize in order to get us to the correct labor market information are assessment tools, and we also do some short-term skill development that they can also utilize through some online programs that are offered here, as well as workshops where they can take some other skill building classes. One of the main assessment tools that we utilize, and that I will demonstrate in a few screenshots after this slide, is the interest profiler. And the main goal of that tool is really to identify interests that the client might have, because we believe at WorkSource Snohomish County that if you are able to find a job or be trained in a job that you have similar or an interest to do, you are more likely to, one, be successful at that job, but also more likely to have job stability in that job. And we all think that that then goes to higher wage retention as well as career progression. And so that's one of the things that we do try to do with our clients. It might not always be possible necessarily to find something, but the interest tool does give out quite a few options, and then allows us also to explore the amount of preparation that might be needed in order to then be placed at that career. And then obviously with the preparation or an understanding of what preparation will need to take place, we are then able to then provide training and workforce development resources specifically for that client. And we can do that in a variety of different ways here with the partnership that we have at WorkSource. We can do on-the-job training through possibly the Workforce Investment Act. We can always look at connecting people with the community colleges. If they are TANF or receiving food stamps, they could be eligible for the BEFIT programs and maybe some other resources as far as opportunity grants with community colleges. The Workforce Investment Act also occasionally sponsors and funds specific training programs here in this county, as well as Workforce Snohomish, which is our Workforce Development Council here in Snohomish County. Will occasionally fund specific training programs, and these programs, one, work with employers to help identify what their training needs are, so that we're better able to provide a workforce that they need so that they can go back to work. One good example of that would probably be the Washington Aerospace Training and Research Center here, where programs were sponsored to help people with aerospace skills in quality control, assembling, tooling, to provide them the skills to be successful not only at Boeing but with the wide aerospace industry here that we obviously have in Washington State. And from that, while working with people, we do have a case management aspect for some of our clients, and there are a variety of programs that do offer case management. One of them would be the Workforce Investment Act. We also have Housing, Urban Development, Veteran Affairs, and supportive housing, HUD-VASH here too. And so there's some different programs that you can be a part of that can do individual employment plans, and me as a reemployment specialist here, I work with people to do that as well. Of anyone that wants to come in, including people that are homeless, that want to come in, identify, and work with me and see how we best can get them to their employment goals so they can find suitable, self-efficient work. And then we would look at addressing what are the correct workshops, what are the correct engagement processes that they should take within the WorkSource system, as well with our community partners to best provide them the services to get them job ready so that they can find work. And we also provide other forms of job search and placement assistance. As a reemployment specialist here, and there are a few of us here, we can do job matching with specific clients. So afterwards, that they're in training programs, we really look to work with them to identify jobs that they then would be suitable to apply for, work with them on targeting their resumes, building their interview skills, especially discussing behavioral interview skills as well, and facilitating their need and helping them piece together both the training and the knowledge that they possibly have received, but as well as those job search skills that employers are looking for so that they can find suitable work. And obviously, one of the main things that we look to providing services to the homeless is that, of course, that they have the tools and the technology to be able to apply for the jobs and to be able to be successful in their training programs as well. So here, anything that's related to job search and approved training, you're allowed to utilize our computers. We offer faxing, scanning capability, and all those things. And obviously, we can help people through their online job applications and anything else they might need in order to get their products or their resumes to employers. And one of the things I do as well, and that I've had the pleasure to be a part of recently here, is to start really building my subject matter expertise in working with the homelessness as well, and being able to make those referrals to the appropriate community and supportive services like Catholic Community Service here that we work closely with as part of the Commerce Project. And so we look at being more attached to the community and attending more consortiums so that we are having a presence and that we're better able to disseminate info to our clients in a timely manner so that they are better able to get connected with the services and get started to a path of employment and self-sufficiency as soon as possible. So I mentioned I would talk about the interest profiler. And so this is what it will look to do for people. It will look to ask them roughly in 60 questions what interests they might have related to specific work activities. And based off that, it will rank them in 6 categories, those activities, into the categories you see below: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. And from there, they can obviously do some research on what each one of these fields are, and then based off that, their responses, they're given a certain score for each category there. And then what do they do once they have those results is they then take a look at what type of preparation, looking at the top of the slide here, at what type of preparation they might be looking at needing. Little or no job preparation, some job preparation. This usually is going to scale from either on-the-job training to then formal or maybe academic education as well. And then once they select a category, as you can see on the bottom half of the slide, you still see realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprise, and conventional. And now you see what they call the job zones there, which relate to the preparation level. And so they can kind of tweak that based off if they want little or no preparation and see what types of jobs could be best fits for them. And then there they get an outlook, some basic labor market information, whether or not the job is in broad outlook, a green industry, whether or not there's apprenticeship programs they could possibly look at in order to gain into that field. And that's something that we look at and talk to with people as well, is looking at, apprenticeships as well as a possible way to start a career or be trained for a career as well. And so it just gives them some information that we can obviously work with clients, provide them specific labor market information on these occupations, discuss with them the different training options for them that could be available to them, from certificate programs to associate programs or what have you, depending on what they're looking at or what's most feasible for their employment goals at that time. And so that's how we use the interest profiler. There also is a skills profiler that we utilize as well with clients that instead of looking at interest, looks at skills that they currently have. And so we can see what jobs possibly they could get started with right away with the skills that they currently have. Or that also allows us to help identify if they possibly need a skill upgrade. Maybe they don't want to change occupations, but maybe they need a skill upgrade of some sort to be more employable in that field. And we'll look at that too. And this is offered on a one-on-one basis with clients that we serve, but we also do facilitate workshops in a group setting to offer this to more people as well. And so as we're working with clients, we always take a look here at how we're preparing them for success. And so we utilize something that my administrator, Matt Bench, we're working on the Job Ready Pyramid here. And so this really talks about how we best set up clients for success. So one of the main things we look at is obviously some of those barrier removal or life skills that might need to be taught. Of course, we find or believe that it's hard to look for work if you don't have housing or if you're concerned about where you're going to spend that, your next night there. And so once we're able to address that issue and provide people those barrier removals or life skills that they need, we then look to address specific employment services as far as resume skills, identifying the proper career training that might need to take place or the right career for people to focus on. We'll look at building their interview skills. We'll look at helping them network through LinkedIn, through our professional networking groups that we offer here. And so that's going to be an individualized approach once we get to this step, depending on exactly what that customer needs. And then at times we find that maybe they will need intensive services where we offer usually through a case management model where we're better able to help work with them on an individualized basis, provide them a way to piece together the bottom half of the pyramid there, the employment services and the barrier removal and life skills that we've been working on. And this is something that we just don't do here at WorkSource. This is something that we understand as a partnership among our community in order to get people job ready throughout. And so some of the things that we've done, and it was briefly touched on by Emily there, is we have co-located, or when we were working on, or are working on the Commerce Project, we had Catholic Community Service here working with the clients as far as their housing and their barrier removal and life skills, while they're obviously at WorkSource so we can help them and they have that connection to employment services without having to go to another office, another building, and we're better able to serve them and meet their needs all in one location. And we also, I'm part of a workshop committee here too as well, where we also have worked on a job retention workshop for clients. So it's important that we set up clients so that they're able to find work and find suitable work that makes them self-sufficient, but we understand it just doesn't stop when you get the job. And we really want to help clients be successful at properly landing and getting orientated to that job and really give them an path to success outside of just securing a job that they can then hold and retain. And so off that workshop, we've talked about many things as far as goal setting once you get to work, as far as connecting with your employer, being able to ask for feedback, being able to maybe see some opportunities or being able to take advantage of some things at the workplace that could be afforded to you, like mentorship programs and some different things we want to make people be aware of that could be available to them so that they can feel like there are options for them to be successful at work and to continue to be successful. And that just doesn't mean from WorkSource, but also from the employer. And so we also want to stress that employers want successful candidates as well, which are obviously working with us to help identify better employer or better training programs for their workforce. We want to make sure that clients understand the employers are also part of this process too as well, of helping them sustain and being self-sufficient. And we also have expanded our workshop offerings. So just like it's also very important that people are able to retain or know some of the things that they need to do in order to maintain a job, we also find that it's important that people understand proper budgeting, financial goal setting too as well. And we've also had workshops that also deal with housing, tenant laws, and providing information so that people are better aware of how to be an appropriate or better tenant, but also what to expect from a landlord too as well. And so our workshops are continuing to expand we continue to offer evaluations of that from the community as well as from the clients we serve so that we can better specialize our workshops to what is needed within our communities. And I already mentioned that me as becoming more active as a subject matter expert here in the housing or working with the homeless and helping them more self-sufficient. We're also doing this as far as working with youth, veterans, and other areas too as well, that we do see homelessness and that we do know that we can serve those populations too. So we're looking at by expanding and by being more active, we're able to disseminate, but we're better able to back info to share with our clients. And that's the goal of our administrator, to definitely make us more active participants. And so some of the things that we saw that have worked well for us, or that we would say maybe are best practices, is one of the main things is co-enrollment between programs here. So you can always work with me. I serve not only, working with people that are homeless, but also the general population. And so then based on that, there are also people that I can get connected or properly referred to. For example, if they fit the eligibility requires maybe for the Workforce Investment Act program, can refer them also to Veteran Services or the Hood Bash program or other programs that could be available to them. And once they're identified as being properly qualified for these programs and we can get them co-enrolled, they're better able to leverage services among different programs, as some programs can provide supportive services while some possibly can't provide more employment services. And so it allows them to piece together the best combination of services for that client as we look to co-enroll them in various programs. And I've mentioned it, and it's been a theme through as I'm talking, but it always goes back to identifying proper training opportunities with employers so that we know that the training that we're offering and that we are recommending for clients possibly to take a look at, if it matches their interests and things that they want to do, that they can actually find jobs afterwards in those fields. Because we want to set people up for success rather than them then taking a training program and finding that they're not able to be placed in that program at all and still have to look at maybe doing what they were once doing before, but nonetheless they invested all that time, effort, and resources into that training program. And we also want to look at being able to identify people who would benefit or need case management opportunities and find ways to get people facilitated into those. And we also want to look at and talk with people as we look at labor market information, their employment goals, and the best way for them to be self-sufficient. We want to identify with people when training is necessary or required and to do that training sooner. And one of the things that we look at to help us with that possibly, especially if it's more basic skills too as well that they might need, is we utilize a program here called Key Train. That's a skill development and assessment module that will work with people to help them identify where their skill lies with applied mathematics, reading information, locating information, and some other skills as well. And it will judge where they're at necessarily with that skill. And based off of that, they're allowed a chance to work up and improve that skill through the online module. And that program also has career skills involved with it as well, as far as effective workplace habits, proper things to consider in the resume, interviewing skills, and so it really will work with career skills as well. And all that's contained in that one program called Key Train for our clients to utilize here. And we also want to look at following up with clients and helping them retain their work, as I mentioned from that workshop. But we want to have a more hands-on approach. We want to be able to make phone calls. We want to be able to touch people. We want to be able to ask them, how are they doing at that job, if that job is satisfying them, and if they see themselves keeping that job or, wanting to possibly look at something else, and better be able to counsel them and work through that to decide if that's really something that's feasible, necessary, or if it's something that just needs to be counseled through. And so we also want to, I mentioned, we really want to also provide and discuss labor market information to all clients that we look at so they understand the potential wage that are attached to their job, but also if that job is going to be in demand after they're done with training too. That's one of the things that we look at is not only, the current labor market, but we want to look at the labor market information in the next 2 or 3 years, if you would, or even 6 months if it's a short-term training program, so that they know and they have an idea of where that occupation is going, where the wage is going, as well as, the workforce. And those are all things that we think allow a customer to better identify if that training or if that career is a good suit for them, and it allows them to better be able to have an appropriate employment plan for them. And so that's going to wrap up my talk here as far as WorkSource in Snohomish County. It's really a big partnership of Employment Security Department and a lot of other agencies and community partners that come together to provide what we offer all our clients and the homeless. And with anything, you can always network with WorkSource, and you can network with us through 3 different avenues there: Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And the information is provided there, and that can always be shared. And I'd like to thank everyone for their time and for giving me the opportunity to talk this morning with you and share what we do at WorkSource.
Thank you, Vashawn, very much. Next, we'll turn it over to Sarai, and I'll just remind our attendees that you can submit a question about employment at any time, and thank you to those who have already submitted questions. And next, we have Sarai Orth.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start by saying thank you to Building Changes for inviting us to be a part of this call this morning. My name is Sarai Orth, and I work with Career Path Services out of Spokane, Washington. I'll start this morning by sharing a little bit about who we are and how we touch or work with homeless families through our programs. Career Path Services provides employment and training programs across the state of Washington, and one of the populations that we work with through funding with the Department of Commerce is the TANF population. In the last program year, statewide, we successfully placed over 500 TANF job seekers into employment with an average wage of $11.10 per hour, and nearly 70% of those placements were full-time. While I don't have specific statistics on how many of these clients were homeless, many of the TANF customers that we work with experience barrier issues, including homelessness, and housing issues are in the top 3 to 4 barriers. When we're working with customers and we're assessing their barrier issues, housing is one of those top 3 or 4 issues that come up. So it is prevalent among the TANF population, and it is something that our customers are working through at the same time that we're also working to serve them in helping them find work. While we've always served homeless customers through our programs, we've had the opportunity over the past 2 years to partner more closely with this particular demographic in working with housing providers in our service areas on the Ending Family Homelessness Project. So in Spokane, we were actually one of the pilot locations that really started to pair together the commerce programs, DSHS services, and the Rapid Rehousing program to look at ways that we could better coordinate services to homeless families. And we've had some experience in working on that over the past few years, and out of that developed some best practices. One of the most important things that we've learned through this process is that individuals facing homelessness are motivated, resilient, and able to keep work with good planning and support. There are many stories that come to mind when I think of homelessness and success. And really, I think that resiliency factor is key. As you're working with people who are experiencing homelessness, many of them, some of them it may be the first time they've been homeless. For others, they have gone through periods of homelessness. And one of the strengths that they bring to the table is that they are resilient. They've developed resiliency in working through some of those issues. So we really draw a lot on that customer's resiliency when we're working with them to find employment. As we work with customers, there's really a two-pronged approach to helping them secure employment. And one of them focuses on the client-centered services that we provide. So that's around how we prepare the customer for their job search. And I'll talk a little bit about how we identify and sustain customer motivation and prepare them to market themselves to employers. The second prong of the approach is our employer-centered services and what we have to offer our employer customer. Today, I'll talk a little bit about our paid internship model. So to begin with the client-centered services, vocational case management centers around the fact that all customers that come to us have strengths and skills. when we're able to provide a good upfront assessment, we get a good idea of the strengths and skills that we're working with that individual. And Vashawn actually talked about in his segment the ONET Skills Profiler, which is something that we use as well to help figure out where somebody's interests and skills lie. Some other materials that you might want to look into or have available to you are the Bev Ford materials. She does a lot of great YouTube videos and then also has written materials on making case management work. And what we really enjoy about her materials is that they center around helping the client to help themselves. It's a very empowering approach, and a lot of her tools are things that we're able to use in our initial orientations and our initial work with customers to help them identify what it is about their life that they want to change and help identify what their motivators will be. And by identifying that stuff up front, we're then able to call a client back to those motivators when they are slipping off track or they're having a frustrating experience or just a bad day, to be able to call them back to what they want to achieve and the resources that they have within themselves to be able to do that. Also, Workforce Explorer is another great tool to use up front with a customer to look into what careers might be available with their skill level and to make sure that we're setting them up in a career that is in demand and at the training level that they will be able to achieve quickly. So the goal from the very first meeting is to help the customer recognize their value, see what they can contribute, and practice talking about their skill set. Many customers facing barrier issues, including housing, come to us pretty beaten up and beaten down by life. One of our most critical touch points are those very first meetings. If we can begin with a strengths-based approach that helps the customer focus on what they can do, we have a good foundation for moving forward. One of the things, in addition to identifying customer strengths, goals, and motivators, is making sure that they know what their career planning and job search tools they have available to them. And beyond that, modeling the type of behaviors that we want to see. So whether somebody is homeless or just facing unemployment for the first time, that modeling can be a really effective tool and a best practice in helping them achieve a successful outcome. So one of the strategies that we use is making sure that our customers know how to do a cold call or a cold visit to an employer. And it's one thing to say, okay, we want you to go out and make a cold call or a cold visit to an employer and go in and see if they're hiring. But what we do is while the client is at our desk, we're actually calling an employer or we're taking them out one-on-one and modeling that. And up front it can be time intensive, but we're assured that they then can replicate that behavior each time that they go out and talk to an employer. So I've given an example there on the screen of a sample script that we use with a customer to help them market themselves using our paid internship program. And even if you don't have a paid internship program available to you, that point about modeling is still important. If we're asking a customer to go out and apply for work or talk to an employer, modeling what that actually looks like, we found has a very successful outcomes. Another piece of the client-centered services is the holistic case management. So in addition to the vocational services that we're providing, we are also helping them manage those life barriers, one of which may be their actual housing issue itself. Prioritization is key, helping the customer determine the first thing that they need to do and then creating a to-do list. Customers facing a housing barrier may also be facing all types of other dilemmas. And at the end of the day, they only have one day to get all of those things accomplished. And so helping them learn how to prioritize what is most important and working on that thing first can help them from becoming distracted by all of the different things that they need to take care of. We also provide access to resources, but it's very important that you know the resources in your community. As much as possible, participate in community groups, subscribe to email lists, and stay current on the resources that are available. It's not as helpful to a customer if we send them out to a resource saying, I think that they can help you or they may be able to help you with this, as it is when we're confident that the provider will be able to give them the help that they need. This helps us to avoid over-tooling the participant. So we can provide them a list of community resources and ask them to work through that on their own. that can be very overwhelming for a customer who just needs to figure out where do I go to deal with my housing issue, or who can I go to get help with diapers. So know what's current, know what's available, and direct them as specifically as possible. If you're very in tune with what's available in your community and your community partners, you may also be able to call ahead to see if you can help get the customer connected. And for customers who are working with limited time and financial resources, it's very helpful to be able to have them make that one stop and have it be a successful trip. It is possible for customers experiencing homelessness to make progress on securing housing and employment at the same time. There may be things that they initially need to do that are very critical, but for the most part, we're finding that customers can work on looking for housing and addressing that issue at the same time that they are looking for employment. And it begins with the customer feeling empowered that they can do that and having clear action steps on how to get there. We also work with the customer providing frequent check-ins to see how things are going and offering continual support through that process. In addition to client services, a successful employment model also needs to have employer-focused services. We have lots of tools available to us through our Department of Commerce program offerings. One of our favorites is the paid internship model because of its effectiveness. We like this best because it allows the customer to gain experience with a commitment from the employer to hire them at the end of the training period. It allows us to extend our support to the customer and the employer through the training process. This is a good choice for customers who have obtained housing but need to secure income in order to stay housed. It works great with the rapid rehousing model, provided that the customer does not have other extensive barriers to holding a job. Even so, if you're working with a customer who does have other barriers, take a look at what barriers are really barriers to employment. Everyone has barriers. If someone has the skills, resources, and support system to manage an issue and still maintain employment, they may be more job ready than we think. I'm not sure the demographic of folks on the call, but if you are a Department of Commerce contractor, you do have the ability to offer a paid internship using the Career Jump program. But even if you don't have a paid internship model, your work with the employer community is still important. Labor market research is still important to know where to direct customers to look for work. And if you obtain a few successful placements, you can begin to build a family of employers who will call you first when they're looking to make their next hire. One of the things I've been impressed with in our building our relationship with rapid rehousing providers is that the skills that the housing case managers have in getting a landlord to work with their customer and offer them housing is really the same skill set it takes to locate and talk with employers about hiring your customer as well. So the skill set is very transferable, and if you're just working in the realm of housing, you will be able to transfer what you do with landlords to work with employers as well. Also, if you don't know who your local commerce contractor is, I do have a list of those providers available at your request. And they may be able to help you get your TANF eligible client connected to a paid internship opportunity. In summary, everyone has skills and strengths they can contribute to their workforce. Most customers will need help identifying what those are. Customers experiencing homelessness just need flexibility, encouragement, coaching to help them keep focused on the end goal. And we do need to have everyone at the table, including employers. Relationship building with employers is as necessary of an element to employment success as preparing the customer. There needs to be both sides of that model for it to work. And also paid on-the-job training is a win-win for the job seeker and the employer. I didn't cover it in detail, just in the interest of time. But if you do have more questions about how that paid internship model works, I'd be happy to share more of that offline. I appreciate your time today, and thank you all.
Thank you, Sarai. Our next segment is increasing income through shared housing. So here to discuss a different approach to helping households increase their income is Byron Cregeur of Shared Housing Services, And I'll be asking Byron about their model for serving both low-income and homeless households and individuals. Welcome, Byron.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So can you start by describing the adult home sharing program and how it works?
Yeah, certainly. So shared housing services, we're in Tacoma and we serve Pierce County, a little bit of South King County, and a little bit of North Thurston County. We've been around 23 years, and we help two different populations that are in need, and we help them both through home sharing. We help homeowners who they have a home, they have an extra bedroom, they're in need. Typically that need is a little extra income to be able to either keep their house or to make it easier for them to cover their monthly expenses. Oftentimes these homeowners are elderly or disabled, and then we're able to try to line up assistance in the house or around the house. But we learn their needs and their wants. The other population that we match them with, we call home seekers. These are the many community members that are out there that are seeking a safe, affordable place to live. They're individuals, they're couples, they're single parent with a single child. So we learn their needs and their wants as well, and we learn from them what living situation would be successful for them. And we make a referral for home sharing. And that referral looks like this. We call the homeowner and say, here's the first name and phone number of someone who we think might be a good fit. Give them a call. And they talk. If they enjoy the conversation, it goes well, we encourage them, well, talk again and meet. But it takes both of them to decide if they want to be roommates in a situation that ends up being symbiotic. It's beneficial for both. And that home seeker pays the homeowner the rent, and we help facilitate if there are any needs in the house or around the house, and help them with a home sharing agreement between the two.
And can you talk a little bit more about who the clients are and what you know about the people you serve?
Certainly. The homeowners, low income, mostly, 59% are low income. Again, they're in need. Some homeowners are in the middle income and are trying not to slide down to the low. But we help homeowners who are housed stay housed, and the home seekers, it's a full range, but 97% are low income, and 55% of the home seekers that come our way are homeless. And so what our program does, it helps those who are literally homeless, but we also help those that are borderline homeless. They're home seekers. They're in transition, whether it's because there's been a change in their income, fewer hours, or they're on unemployment, or it could be divorce, whatever it might be. They're having a hard time affording where they're at. And in the Tacoma, Pierce County area here, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is in the mid to low 700s. You could find something for less. You could find something for more. That's the average. And then you add utilities on top of that. And that ranges. Utilities could be anywhere from 75 to 150 more a month. That adds up. And homeowners are asking, on average, 350 to 500 a month, more now in the 450. So there's a big difference between $400 and $450 and something, which includes utilities, and rent that gets up in the 800s with utilities. And I've been here for 4 years now at shared housing, and it's just really opened my eyes. There are so many community members out there who just need a little bit of help. They just need a little bit. There are some that need more, but there's so many that need just a little bit of help. And $300, $400 savings a month that they don't have to pay towards rent. And if we're able to locate them in a house that is on a bus line, it then saves them. Perhaps they don't need their car and have to pay the insurance and pay the gas. So it's, anyways, we see our program as a real win-win with helping both populations.
And just to clarify, is it exclusively homeowners, or could it be someone who has a lease and is renting and then wants to share their home?
The traditional model is a homeowner who lives in the home, but it doesn't have to be like that. It can be someone who is renting a home, but then we need to have permission from the actual owner of the home. It's the whole subletting. So provided we have that permission. And we've also worked with apartment complexes where a home seeker has come to us and said they're renting a 2-bedroom and it's just too tight because of what they're experiencing financially. And so they want to help fill that other bedroom. We work with that apartment complex with their approval to help find a match for that renter.
Great. And can you talk a little bit more about the matching process? What happens after the match is made, and what kind of successes have you seen?
Certainly. And let me share a little bit more about the process. It's a lengthy application for both the homeowner and the home seeker. And so how we vet and get to know about the homeowner. There's the application. We also go visit the home to see that it's suitable, that it's decent living space. We also see the bedroom to see that it's suitable and decent. And we spend a little bit of time with the homeowner. Typically that involves going through different parts of the application. But when we have that sit-down time with the homeowner, we get a good sense of who they are as a person, and that's so important. And that's it's that human element. Then we do the criminal background checks, and we do reference calls also.
And pardon me, Byron, could you talk a little louder? We're getting some comments that you're a little soft.
Oh, okay, certainly. Did I need to repeat any of what I had just said?
Maybe just keep going, but your current volume is great.
Okay. So similar to what I just shared about the homeowner's process for vetting and going through their application, the home seeker lengthy application, and we do criminal background check and do reference calls. We sit down, our housing specialist sits down with that home seeker, typically in our office here. If they're not able to make it, we of course would go to them. And our housing specialist, again, sitting down with that home seeker, gets a good sense of who they are as a person. And I just really want to stress that it's more than when we're making a referral and we're making a match, because we want the match to be successful for both the homeowner and the home seeker. The human element. So in addition to learning from the home seeker, where in the county do they want to live? In addition to learning, well, how much can they pay for rent, which narrows down who we would be able to refer them to. It's getting a sense of who they are and who we think might be a good fit, a good roommate fit, and then we again make that referral for them to connect. Now, and then Emily, you asked about after the match is done. We're here to help with mediation we're here to help in any way that we can. With both the homeowner and the home seeker, we see both equally as our clients that we are serving. And sometimes there is a bump in the road. We do our best, as does the homeowner and the home seeker, when they talk to one another and decide that they want to do this. We do our best to line it up. But if there is a bump in the road, we're here. They can call us. We can help them work through any issues. If they would like, our housing specialists can go to the home, meet with both, and do some mediation. But we find that typically the conversation, it's something that we can do here in the office, and it relates back to the home sharing agreement that the homeowner has with the home seeker. A typical example would be the homeowner calling and saying, well, they're not taking out the trash. I'm always taking, well, you know, or the dishes. They're not doing the dishes as much. And then so we ask them again about, you know, well, did you two talk about that when you moved in? And it's is it in the agreement of how often, who does what? And sometimes they forget, or sometimes they didn't feel it was necessary to write it down. So pointing them back to that, and then and also helping both the homeowner and the home seeker with how to communicate. It's how do you bring up a topic that you feel is a little sensitive with someone who is now your roommate. Because a lot of the homeowners, this is their first time doing anything like this. So we're here to help them be able to, again, bring up those difficult conversations and to work through issues. We want to teach them the tools to be able to work through issues on their own. But of course, we're always here. And then, Emily, you asked about successes. And again, this just points back to that human element of matching two people together. 86%, when we do our outcome-based evaluations, we get this data. 86% of our matches reach 90 days, and we consider 90 days if a house for 90 days, that it's permanent housing. And then once they do, those that reach the 90 days, they then average 26 months, which we think is pretty phenomenal. These are two people who don't know one another, and they're now together, and they choose how long they want to be roommates. And we often have homeowners then give us a call and say, well, the home seeker has moved on. May I have another, please? Well, certainly. Remind us again, what did you like most, and what did, you know? But the first 90 days is also that adjustment period where we, again, tell the homeowner and the home seeker, we're here if you have questions. But really, once they hit that 90 days, it usually just hits a nice cruise control and continues to go. And last year, we did 109 matches, which we think is pretty good for the Pierce County, any county. And then also, I also want to plug, we just think that home sharing, any community, every community would benefit from home sharing. It's kind of the European model of it's more common out there because of their history with the countries. Common out there for individuals or for families with children who have a home to rent an extra bedroom. We just don't have that as part of our culture. It kind of would be nice if we had a little bit more of that, because then we would have more homeowners coming our way. And we average for every one homeowner application about 10 home seeker applications. And so that's the challenge. We're not able to, of course, help everyone, but we do feel good about 109 matches. Our goal, of course, is to keep increasing that.
So Byron, this is also a question that just came in. Can you talk a little bit more about what kind of liability and risks the agency assumes, and how do you handle that? And for example, how do you work with people who have criminal backgrounds?
Certainly. So risks and liabilities. That's kind of broad. It's easiest. We're a referral agency, and we make it real clear to the homeowner and the home seeker. We make a referral. I think it's a very different world if we actually placed someone in someone's home. Then we become liable. But the homeowner and the home seeker, they choose to come together. So legally for the homeowner or the home seeker to come back to the agency and say, to cry foul is very difficult because, again, we are someone that connects them. For criminal background, we have a policy, of course. It's if someone has a felony, they are denied from being in the program. However, we have an appeal process. In addition to, which I'll describe, in addition to a felony, we're sensitive to theft and assaults, physical harm against another person. And I think that makes sense for both the sensitivity for theft and assault, because it's somebody moving into someone's home. For felonies, we look more closely at felonies in the last 10 years. We, of course, also look at, well, what is the felony? Anyone who is denied the appeal process, they have a choice. They can either put in writing, we have a form, put in writing, and or meet with me, and we can sit down and learn more about the situation. We're an agency, one of many out there, who are here to help people. It's our intent to want to help, and we learn so often that just because an incident happened 8 years ago or 12 years ago, that doesn't mean that's the same person now. I mean, if somebody has learned and they've made changes in their life, they're no longer on drugs or drink. They've been clean and sober for so many years, and I can sit down and ask them questions about that. And what club do they go to? I mean, how do they? They've made changes and they have their child back, or it's having the dialogue with the applicant helps, and it makes a big difference in seeing who really has made changes, so that we then would be able to make the best decision we can to say, yes, we think our home sharing program is a good fit for them. That, of course, doesn't mean we're able to find housing necessarily, again, because the ratio of homeowners to home seeker applications.
And along those lines, what are the challenges that you encounter with this model?
Well, our biggest challenge in the last couple of years has been the change in how much homeowners are asking for in rent. Homeowners several years ago, it was $300, $350 a month in rent. Again, that includes utilities in about 99% of the cases. Well, now homeowners, $400 to $450. Sure, we get some at $350 and some at $500, but $400 to $450. Home seekers, they're still coming in the door, and they can just pay that $300 to $350. So that growing disparity is making it more challenging for us. Of course, we talk with the homeowners and say, we have someone who we think would be a good fit. Is there a way we'd be able to work with you so your rent can go down? Is there anything that they could do in the house or around the house, in addition to what they might have asked in the application, that might be able to lower their rent? That would make things easier for you. But that's our number one challenge. And then you'll also see there housing home seekers with mental health issues. We're just seeing in the last several years just an increase in more home seekers who have those challenges, and it makes it a little bit more difficult on our end to have that comfort or a surety that if we're making a referral for this individual, how long a match might last. It helps if the home seeker is a part of and connected with counseling, and we can get some assurance from their counselor that, to their knowledge, yes, the home seeker has been taking their medication and they do come regularly. That makes it easier, but it is a growing challenge that I wish we had an easy solution for. And then homeowners accepting someone who smokes or has an animal, and this is not a new challenge. This has been a challenge for quite a while. Home seekers, a lot of them do smoke, but again, we also have homeowners who smoke, but we have more home seekers than homeowners. More home seekers that smoke than homeowners that smoke. And some homeowners are okay with, well, I'll give it a try as long as they don't smoke in the house, as long as it's outside. And then that makes it a little bit easier for us. Some homeowners, they just say, no, I don't want you to refer anyone who smokes. I'm just really sensitive to the smell. And then animals. Well, we're animal lovers here in the office, but it's difficult when a home seeker has an animal, and typically we see that they have a dog. We don't want them to part with their dog, but that becomes a big barrier. If the homeowner says no animal, the homeowner can make that decision because it is their home and they live in that home. So that's a challenge for us. And then one that has been around a long time also is matching families of 3 or more. It's rare that we find a homeowner who is comfortable renting a bedroom or two to a family of 3. Very rare. Add a 4th or a 5th exponentially. It's just it's too difficult for us to even try. We do our best when people call. So if it's a family of 3, and we're very honest with them and tell them it's a family of 4 or 5. We're very honest with them and telling them what their chances might be of us finding a place for them. But for our challenges, again, going back to the top, it's that growing disparity between what homeowners are asking for rent and what home seekers can afford.
What are some best practices you can share with agencies who might be thinking of shared housing as an option for their clients?
Yeah, any agency that is interested, my contact information as well as the other presenters will be at the end of the presentation here. Feel free to email me. That is the easiest. Again, I think it would be great if every community had a home sharing program. But if you were looking at starting one up, connecting with the churches is a great way to spread the word. And other nonprofits, of course, in their community and coalitions. Flyers, getting the word out. I would really start small with pilot, 3 to 5 homeowners. Once you have them, work with them and match them, get your feet wet, practice working on that human element. unless you want a model where you're just kind of connecting people, but that human element just makes it so much easier and more successful for running the program. And I would say just do it. I mean, just get out there, whether someone wants to start it from scratch or if it's a large nonprofit that wants to start a little department. I would say just do it, because again, it's two different populations, and we're using existing services that are already resources that are already out there. Homeowners are there; they have an extra bedroom. Home seekers need a place. We're not able to build, as a society, build enough new structures to house everyone in need, especially when there are so many out there who they just need a little bit of help. They don't need a whole lot. They just need a little bit. And then again, of course, they can email me and I'll do what I can to assist.
And apart from the home sharing program, or excuse me, the adult home sharing program, does Shared Housing Services have any other programs or populations that you work with?
Yeah, the county came to us, Pierce County did, in partnership with the city of Tacoma, and wanted to have a program for youth and young adults who are experiencing homelessness. These are unaccompanied youth, young adults. This is that invisible population that is out there. They're mostly couch surfing, or they could be in the park. It's called the Host Home Program, and it's a part of a larger program called Housing for Success, and Host Home is one of the housing options, and it's based and built off of our adult home sharing program. It's a homeowner in the community who has an extra bedroom. They are in the role of being a mentor to this young adult, and case management is provided by a partner agency, job and skill training provided by another partner agency. And what is just fantastic about this program is you have case management, job skills, and life skills training, partnering with a homeowner, partnering with us at Shared Housing Services, all working together to help this young adult who is renting the bedroom. The grant pays for the rent for the home. A difference with the homeowners here is these are not homeowners that are in need. These are caring individuals, caring partners, caring families. We have families with some children who are part of the program. And that family, again, mentor, not parent, but mentor. And the program's been up and running for a little over a year now, and it's just tremendous success. Right now we have the program is full. We have 35 that are housed throughout the county.
Great. And lastly, in addition to youth, are there other underserved populations that you think home sharing might be able to target?
Yeah, I'd like to think that home sharing would be able to help almost every underserved population that is struggling with housing. But listed here, family home sharing, and we have on our property. We just dabbled a little bit. A large 3-bedroom apartment and 2 small families with small children are living together in that apartment, and they share the kitchen, they share the living room, the dining room, and the bathroom. It is a family roommate relationship, and it's going really well. They've been matched for about 4 months now, and it's going very well. They're really good at communicating with one another and managing the children, which was the initial concern, and then matching home seekers. Remember from earlier, there are so many more home seekers than there are homeowners. And so to consider, and we've dabbled a little with, well, why don't we take 2 home seekers, the ones that can't pay the 400, 450, or 500 that's being asked by the homeowner, they can only pay that 300, 350. How can we help them? So putting, matching them in a 2-bedroom apartment where they have their own bedroom, and again, they share the kitchen, living room, dining room, and bathroom. And then another population that that is out there that I think would be great to reach out to more is the single females who are homeless, because in our community, the shelters are designed for males, and we don't have any shelters for females who are single, unless they are in imminent danger, escaping domestic violence. So there's this, I think, much larger population out there that are in need of a lot of assistance, that if we can reach out to them and find they can come to us, and we'd be able to hopefully help them out.
Great, thank you, Byron. So we have about 15 minutes left for questions, and thank you all to those who submitted your great questions. We have quite a few. So things that have been coming through, Byron, in terms of your work, we've gotten a lot of questions asking if is shared housing in my area. As I understand it, this is a program in Pierce County primarily, and it's probably not in any of our other attendees' areas. So the kind of follow-up question to that is, since this is a replicable model, how do you fund it, and how might others be looking to fund a program like that if it's not in their area?
In the state of Washington, there may be some other home sharing programs. Again, I've been here 4 years at Shared Housing Services. I've heard that Bainbridge has or had something. Whidbey Island has or had something. Long Beach is interested in starting or has or had something. And but for an organization our size, with the scope of what we do, I believe we're the only ones in the state. And our funding for the city, the county, through competitive grants, and a lot of our own fundraising activities, auctions, those that enjoy auctions, and then foundation grants. It's writing a lot for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. Of course, it would be nice to get larger grants of 50, 100, or 150, 200,000 to support the adult home sharing program. Our host home program gets tremendous support from the City of Tacoma and Pierce County. The adult home sharing program, again, largely is from our own fundraising activities and foundations.
And Byron, what does it cost to run your programs? What's your operating budget?
For the host home program, roughly $300,000. For the adult home sharing program, about $150,000.
And is there a cost to either the home seeker or the homeowner in the matching process?
Just the background check, and $20 for the home seeker. And for the homeowner, it's $50, because that includes staff time for site visit. And those homeowners who are very concerned about, well, paying $50 on the low income, or I'm further away and I'm not sure if we'd be able to have a match, we work with them on that. You know, if we make a match, then in your first month rent that you receive, pay us the $50 then, and that has worked out well.
Great, thank you. So this is a question that came in for Vashawn. Vashawn, is the interest profiler tool that you explained, is that available at all WorkSources?
I'm not sure if the workshop that we offer that covers those assessments is offered at every WorkSource, but The online interest profiler itself, yes, it is offered actually online. Anyone can actually take it and walk through it. It's available on the Go to WorkSource.com website, and it would be located on the left side of the web page under the link Skills Center.
Thank you. And a related question, are the best practices that you described at WorkSource Snohomish only, or do you know if those are statewide practices as well?
It's usually a statewide practice. WorkSource is usually a partnership of various organizations. So typically that model of co-enrollment is available throughout the WorkSource center or system.
Thank you. And then Sarai, this is a question that came in for you. Are you able to share the link to the Bev Ford materials so that our attendees could then share them with their partners? And we could, if you're able to send it to me, for example, we could then disseminate it to the attendees.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. There's several links to her YouTube materials that would be really good for partners to watch.
Great. And then, Sarai, could you also speak to what could housing providers and other partners do to support the work that you're doing on the employment side?
I think one of the things that's been really helpful here in Spokane is we've just developed better communication, whether by email or phone. We get a signed release from our participant to be able to share information between the two providers. And so knowing what their requirements are with their housing provider is very beneficial to us on the employment end, because then we can help if there's a particular appointment or class that they need to make in order to keep their housing or move forward with their housing. We can make sure that their work schedule aligns with that. And so having us in the loop on what those requirements are helps us to help that customer prioritize and get all of their needs met.
Thank you.
Hey, Emily.
Yes.
Hi, this is Jeff at Commerce. I'm sitting in a room here full of colleagues, and there are some good questions that have come up on this end, and I'd like to give some of my colleagues an opportunity to voice some of those questions. Is that okay?
Sure. We have a couple more from our attendees, but how about one question?
Sure.
I don't know how to phrase it best, but it was about whether the funding parameters, kind of hoping you can translate for me. Hi, my question is around, do the funding parameters have any additional process? I don't think I can answer or even ask this correctly, but affect some of the things that occur that need to be in a lease? I mean, how does that play out in terms of funding and just any restrictions that occur?
In the home share, scenario.
Short answer, because I want to make sure that I understand the question, no. With our funders for the adult home sharing program, our funders do not have any restrictions on the lease.
So would the Landlord-Tenant Act apply in a situation where a homeowner is renting a room to a home seeker? Does the landlord-tenant laws apply under that scenario?
It's a wonderful question, and the answer is sometimes. And if the homeowner is living in the home and is sharing the living space with the home seeker, then fair housing laws do not apply. But I believe, and depends on the situation, according to our attorney, that yes, still some landlord-tenant laws would apply, but it ends up being kind of a gray area. Not all, but fair housing, not all. Now, if the homeowner lives in the home, but they're renting a separate area in the house, a basement downstairs that has, and they're not sharing the living space, then landlord-tenant laws, fair housing, it all applies.
Cool. Thank you.
So I think we have time for one more question, and this applies to all three of our presenters. The question is, so all three of you represent some of the bigger counties in our state. So do you have suggestions about applying the strategies that you discussed in smaller or more rural counties? Maybe Vashawn, could we start with you?
Sure. I think a lot of what we do at WorkSource is to try to make it so that those services are available to some of those agencies or communities. One thing as far as the interest profiler and working through those are all things that can be done online as long as you have an internet connection, and then obviously the staff to counsel and work people through those assessments and through the different type of training opportunities that could be available to them. I think that can be done within a small community. As far as the co-location and some of those services, sometimes that could be maybe a little bit more difficult. But I would say much of what we do here, I think, could be offered at a rural center. I think a lot of what it is, as far as when we refer, we have people then go outside of maybe what's available in the system. That is when it gets a little bit more, making those connections one-on-one with people could be maybe a little bit more difficult or outside of the area. But no, I think a lot of the resources, I think, could be available online. And we also are trying to do more as far as making things accessible to some other communities outside, like in the Darrington area here in Snohomish County, by offering services either at, the Snow Isle Regional Library System, or providing webinars or resources where people can look online or view our workshops through that. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks. Sarai, any thoughts about smaller, more rural counties?
Sure, I can chime in on that because I actually oversee commerce operations in Ferry County, Okanagan, Stevens, and Ponderay, which are all more rural areas. And there's two things I would say. As far as the client-centered services, all you have to be able to do that is a person at your desk. So many of those strategies will still apply regardless of whether the service area is big or small, the client-centered strategies. And as far as employer-centered strategies, if you're a commerce contractor or partner with your commerce contractor, you do have the ability also to offer that paid internship model, regardless of the service area. And actually last year in Okanagan County, we had 3 successful career jump or paid internship placements, and have found that it actually is very beneficial for employers in a rural area who may not otherwise take the risk on hiring, because it does allow them the opportunity to train that person on our dollar. And so it does mitigate some of that initial startup cost with hiring, which is beneficial in the rural area. So we've found it successful both in the small areas and in our larger counties.
Great, and just with 1 or 2 minutes, Byron, do you want to weigh in about shared housing in smaller or rural places?
Yeah, I think it does change a little bit. If anyone's interested in starting up in a smaller area, I believe it'd be most successful if it was a part of a larger agency, organization, church, whatever, that is already connected in the community. So it'd be a program there, because otherwise it makes it difficult to try to find the funding. And then something that would also be a challenge is the smaller the area, the smaller the pool of applicants. It's a lot easier when you have a larger pool of applications that you can go through with more people to meet, that you'd be able to try to make a match. The program, I think, can be really, really challenged if you have a homeowner application and only 3 home seekers. It's easier if you have more home seekers to choose from.
Thank you. And just as a quick clarification to Sarai's comments, the commerce contractors refers to work-first contractors and not housing in terms of who Career Path works with in that way. So we are at the end of our time. If we didn't get to your question, we will try to follow up directly and get it answered. Thank you so much for all of your lively, thoughtful questions. And many thanks to our presenters. You can find their contact information here on the screen. And again, please remember to fill out the very short 3-minute evaluation of the webinar that will be sent in an email after the webinar. And lastly, you can save the date for our 3 upcoming webinars about key aspects in rapid rehousing. Progressive engagement in practice, tools for implementation will be on Wednesday, October 1st at 10 a.m. Building partnerships, making the connection between McKinney-Vento School Professionals Housing and TANF Work First will be on Thursday, October 23rd at 10 a.m. And working with landlords, engagement, fair housing, landlord-tenant law, and the balance of both will be on Wednesday, November 19th from 10 until 12. And we have recorded the webinar and we will be sharing it. It will be available on Building Change's website, Commerce's website, and then we will also make sure that people get a notification on when it's available for viewing. Thank you again for joining us today.